Hoi! I'm Cybr. We played D&D today, and we've had a few sessions since the last time I've did one of these, and, I think it's about time to catch up. So last time we left off, we had just finished a small little dungeon romp on a submarine that ended up being the thing, which was just a way for me to spruce up one of the Balenpost adventure hooks from the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. So a Myriad operative, Nathro Arpel, who has been working in Balenpost, has murdered their guide. The characters were sent out to go bring them back in. They succeeded in bringing Nathro back. Some of the other people got eaten by a shapeshifting creature. And when we last left off, 4 of them were making their way back, or traveling away from that site. The next time that we came back, we were basically going to figure out how that's going to resolve, because everybody survived, but are the characters going to bring them in, or are they going to try and subdue them or trick them or do whatever? Now, the person who was originally sent to Balenpost was Toph, and during the game, Toph just sort of took the party aside and said, we should gank them, sneak behind them, knock them out, subdue them, and turn them in, get the reward. It's fine, they're criminals. And some of the party was a little bit hesitant, but in the end it was Toph's thing, so they were willing to follow Toph's lead with this. And so things resolved where Nathro and one other of the thugs were knocked out and subdued. Traveling back to Balenpost, some of the other party members stayed up and just, sort of talked with Nathro to try and figure out, hey, what was going on. And he was a little sus. He was just well, we were being sent out with one of the other annexes of the assembly. I forgot who I named him, but he was freaking out and cowering and sort of throwing us in the line of fire whenever we came across this white moose. That's a surprise tool we'll get to use later. Nathro was just I knew that he was going to get the rest of my party killed, and I don't owe this man any loyalty, so I would rather save my crews back than do the bidding of a hoity-toity mage who doesn't care if I live or die. Which you could see is a little harsh, but yeah. In the end, the party still followed Toph's lead and turned him in. As a DM, I feel like it's important to try and check in with your players in these sort of times to make sure that they're not getting fatigued by trying to make a whole bunch of hard choices. Every now and then it might be good to break up a whole bunch of very, very hard choices with something that's very easy and a quick win. Unfortunately, the party is dealing with the Empire, which is a very political, or the Empire and the Cerberus Assembly, which are very morally gray political powers in Eiselcross. So I did want to check in at this moment and just be listen, are you enjoying this sort of morally gray, maybe not every choice is the correct choice thing, or would y'all want to scale it back to some sort of easy, quick wins, easy decisions stuff, and not get fatigued with a whole bunch of morally dubious stuff? And the party was just oh no, intrigue is great. The morally gray stuff, that's awesome. So I was okay. I'm not gonna hold back whenever we get back to Balenpost. And oh boy. Schedules started to get messed up, and we took a little break, which might have made a lot of the impact of that conversation sort of go by the wayside. But Toph came back and turned in the criminals to Warlow Akron, who assigned the quest. And while they were having that conversation, Warlow asked, "Is there anything else that you have to report?" Now, the reason that Toph has been asked to come to Balenpost in the first place is because of another adventure hook from the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. Akron has been clued in that there may be spies from the Empire, from the Ogden Trust, who are reporting on things that the Cerberus Assembly isn't quite ready to report to the Empire. The characters, in a very good night of information gathering and playing poker, were able to uncover the identity of the spy ring. Before they left to go search for the myriad operatives, they had tried to identify some of them by talking to other people, specifically Dagon Underthorn. They justified this by saying, oh, well, we have something to deliver to them. They've been delivering a lot of things to a lot of people. This is not something that would be unreasonable for Dagon to go back and confirm with those people at a later date. It's like, oh, did you ever get what those, mercenary adventurers were planning to give to you? So the spies were going to confront the player characters. Unfortunately, Toph had already turned them in. He had already given them up. So almost immediately after leaving Akron's office, where those quests were being turned in, the companions of Cardomac sort of invited them back to talk at Carda's tent. And just be like, what the fuck is up with that? And the party was just like, you're spies. Now, the second part of this quest, the morally gray part, is that the Ogden Trust and Cardomac are sort of trying to discover what secrets are being held in Horswell's lab to see if they are dangerous. But there's one more adventure hook. Apparently, because of some of the experiments that were going on in Horswell's lab, a woman has gone missing, and she got turned into a vampire. Now, vampires, very high challenge rating. It's challenge rating 13. So, scaled her back, made her a Nosferatu, and didn't unleash her on the world yet. At this point, she was still in Horswell's lab, hadn't broken out yet. And so, upon realizing that they had been turned in, Cardomac sort of just went off on the party, just being like, okay, I'm fucking glad that you found us out and turned us in already, and didn't fucking decide to ask what we were doing, because now you have ruined our, we were supposed to meet somebody, they've gone missing, we don't know what the fuck's going on, so we're still trying to find our way into the lab, make sure this girl is alright. You fucking soulless idiots. And sort of just left them with, but they were just like, if you want to try to undo any of the damage that's been done, here's a speaking stone, go fucking find this girl and find out all the other, find out what's going on in Horswell's lab, because the Empire needs to know. Somebody could be in danger. And then the guards started coming because they were talking for a very long time and it was a very heated discussion. And, well, an espionage ring was, uncovered and turned in. So they were trying to get out of Dodge. Fortunately, Akron was not able to catch the highly trained spies of the Ogden Trust. They were able to escape. That's a surprise tool that we'll use later. Basically, the party was empty-handed, and so he couldn't really say that Toph had finished the job that he was hired for. So it was a net zero sum. But there was still the question of the lab. So the party a little bit shooketh, took some time to breathe and sort of make a plan for trying to investigate the lab. Decided to go talk to, just go stake it out, maybe, go talk to Horswell, and see if, maybe they can, get a little looky-loo around the lab. Horswell was not having it, especially since she wouldn't be able to really do a lot in her lab to really show off, because kobolds had overrun the mine that Balenpost was using to collect crystals that were being used in her artifice to reconstruct Aori and stuff. This is the Tourmaline quest from Rime of the Frost Maiden. But still, while they were talking, the party were able to find out a few things. Number one, Horswell did not have a lock and key to the door to the lab. Instead, it was sealed with an arcane lock. Number two, there was a hidden back panel in the surface level lab that led to a deeper lab where quite possibly other experiments were happening. Teague was able to figure that out by sort of, while the party was talking with Horswell, just like running around the lab as a spider, out of sight and out of mind, but not triggering any of the defenses of the lab. The party was like, okay, we will go see about this mine. We need to leave because we have another quest to deliver provisions to Macredius as part of the Black Cabin quest from Rime of the Frost Maiden. We'll go do that, and we'll see you later. And she's like, okay. And then the party, which is like, okay, shit, let's plan. The party knew that they needed to be able to find someone who knows the knock spell, or somebody who can dispel magic. Unfortunately, just the stat blocks that I was pulling up, Mage, Apprentice Mage, and Valen Harpel, did not have any of the spells that they needed, especially not dispel magic, which was kind of weird. I kind of figured one of the mages would know that. And it wasn't in any of the spellbooks either. But that's not to say that there wasn't a cool Wildmount tie-in that could solve this problem. There were actually two. One of them was the Magician's Judge. Whenever they were talking to Cardomac, I left a couple of magic items in Carter's chest as Aorian artifacts that she was just like keeping around for herself. One of those was the Magician's Judge. The other one was the Dagger of Denial. The party was just like, we will take one of those and sort of just like hide it on our person while they're abandoning everything. Otherwise, it would just be useless evidence. Unfortunately, the only one that they picked up was the Dagger of Denial, which is not which comes in handy. Which came in handy later. But one of the magic items in Explorer's Guide to Wildmount is called Dispelling Stone. And it does what it says on the tin. It's a stone, you throw it, and it dispels magic. So I had sort of arranged it that Valen Harpel, who is still hanging around, was sort of prepping for her own expedition. Valen Harpel is trying to track down Nas Lantamir, another explorer who had stolen an item from her and made her way toward the island of Schneesel, loosely adapting some of the stuff that happens in Rime of the Frost Maiden. And sort of made an agreement with the party. Valen will give over the stones, but because the party is sort of putting her own expedition in peril, she would need to resupply and would feel a lot better about going on the expedition if she had the party as backup. The party agreed. So the party waited until the dead of night, or whenever the guards would be a little bit more lax and nobody would be in the lab, and decided to start throwing some dispelling stones to dispel some of the lab's defenses and sort of make their way down into the secret lab. They found a few things there. One of them was an experimental weapon, a prototype weapon that's sort of been recreated from Aorian stuff. And I'd sort of framed this thing as a sort of like cannon that used some of the experimental gravity magic or force channeling abilities of Aor, and sort of put them into a sort of demolition gun or force cannon or whatever. And I basically just like went back to the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica and changed the damage type of a pyro converger. Fire cannon does fire damage, and at sometimes will misfire and cause you some fire damage. Basically did the same thing, made it force damage. Because, hey, something's already there, it works. Use what you got. One of the other things that they found was a lead box that said, "Do not open." There are a couple of interesting plot points in the Eiselcross section of Explorer's Guide to Wildemount that point out that some of the Aorian artifacts turn people undead. One of them, we had mentioned, Eiselcross, who turned into a vampire. Another one is the Fortress of the Dead Jarl, where an Aorian artifact that was laid at the Jarl's foot turned her and every other frost giant in that stronghold to zombies, to frost giant zombies. So it seems like while Aor was developing weapons that were going to be able to kill the gods, they were dealing with a lot of negative energy, necrotic energy. So how do we make that work here? One of the things that we haven't gotten to quite yet in the Rime of the Frostbane adventure is this magic item called the Summer Star, which basically gathers a whole bunch of energy and eventually dispels them all. It is a malfunctioning magic item that can and will kill players. Basically, I used the same mechanics from this and turned it into necrotic damage, and basically had it where if it killed somebody, it would be like Finger of Death or something where whoever died came back as some sort of undead. I figured there were enough warning signs. Hey, it's in a lead box, do not open, with notes that clearly explain what was going on, and also had a note that said one of the researchers, Eiselcross, got turned into undead because of this. And now we've locked her up until we can find a way to reverse it. And Teague, as a spider, I think as a spider, actually snuck into this backdoor cell where Eiselcross was, and did confirm that, because Eiselcross was spider climbing on the walls and just like sort of Nosferatu looking back down, waiting for somebody to pounce on and feed, because she hungry. So they're like, oh shit, this is bad. We can report this, but like we're not gonna fuck with anything here because it could kill us. And so now they're just waiting on their contact to figure out how to turn that in. Forgot to mention, the party was given a sending stone to by the spies to be able to continue their job. So they got on this super, hotline to the president sending stone and just said, "Hello, who's this?" And the spy master to the Empire, the head of the Ogden Trust, was just like, "Who the fuck are you? How did you get this?" They explained the situation. And Oliver, who still did not reveal himself, or who he was, tried to clean it up as best as he could, and basically said, somebody is going to show up to Balenpost in a couple of days to resupply them, take a couple of criminals back to the mainland, the people that were just turned in. He is trustworthy. Report to him what you know. and I'm going to destroy this now, because very high state secrets are now unsecure. So now the party is waiting for that resupply to come. And they definitely need it now. So the party left the lab. All the defenses are broken because of dispelling stones. And so they're just like, well, somebody's going to find out. It's fine. We just make our way back to camp. No one's going to be any of the wiser. And as soon as they leave, there's a huge gust of wind happening. As another Threem's Howl, another magical blizzard has hit. There are people running in from the outside, shuffling back into the safety of the fort from the tent city that's outside. And the party decides, the party can hear like screams for help and everything. And so they do the very heroic thing and shuffle into the crowd and try and make their way to safety and join everybody in the huddle upstairs. So they sort of huddle up for a little bit. But later in the night, there's some like lights that shine up against the second floor as the cold light walkers, the frozen corpses of people who have died in this blizzard, now raised by the frost energy, the frost and necrotic energy of this storm. Eiselcross, weird magic, come up and try to try to kill some people. And they are joined this time by some cold snap spirits. The cold snap spirits are a new sort of thing that showed up in the Tal'Dorei campaign setting. However, they were also showcased in Critical Role Campaign 2 in Aeor, in Eiselcross. The flavor text for them connects them to an elemental entity called Erevan the Rhyme Lord, the person who Winter's Crest is all about. That's a surprise tool that I'll use later. But the party fought off these cold sap spirits and these cold light walkers with the help of some of the mages that were hiding in Balenpost, including Valen Harpel. And survived. But as they made their way back out into Balenpost, the damage that was wrought on the fort was significant. Balenpost, as written, has about 200 people living in it. There are about 150 at the end of this. Like a quarter of the people froze and died that night. These threats are ramping up. The party, exhausted, decided to confirm the status of their mount, their animals, which were going to be fine. I do not kill pets with names. They were fine, and a couple of the like farmhands that were watching over the mounts and the beasts of burden and everything, they were all fine. But they collected their stuff, and it was just like, we said we were going to go clear out a mine. Let's make our way over there and get away from like all of this and just like breathe for a little bit. And so they did. We took another little break because again schedules got all messed up. And then today we finally took on the geode mine. So the gem mine is a very small little romp. There's not too many difficult encounters, especially if your party is attempting to come at this a little bit more diplomatically. They fought a couple of rats near a subterranean river that was extremely cold, and the current was extremely strong, and the party thankfully did not step into the water, or they may have realized that it has the chance to pull the party to a drop that descends thousands and thousands and thousands of feet down into the Underdark, where they will die immediately. DC 10 Saber die. But they didn't jump in it, and that's the important part. However, the mine does also have some kobolds. The party sort of came into this just like, let's just figure out what's going on, let's talk to them, and see if we can come to some sort of agreement. And some of the kobolds did, after failing to be threatening, were given some food and offered to bring them to their leader, Trex, a smart kobold who doesn't talk dragon no more, who is very concerned for the safety of the kobolds. So the party went to go talk to Trex. Trex is possessed by a ghost of someone named Janth. They didn't actually get to learn that much about Janth, but basically he was just a scholar who died and possessed this, his ghost possessed this kobold and is now trying to like possess somebody of high enough standard, high enough power and influence that he can like sort of gain some control over his life again. But it's more of just like a vengeful spirit who's tired of being trapped in a kobold body. Whenever the party went to go talk to Trex, Trex said, "Sure, escort me to Balenpost. We'll bring them a peace offering of some of these gems, and we can arrange for the kobolds to continue working in the mine and get some shelter and food from Balenpost, and we'll work with them. That seems like a fair agreement." The party also fought a Grell, this aberrant creature from the Underdark who quickly paralyzed and grappled the druid, Teague. And the Grell got very close to dragging Fair over the drop, where it definitely would have dropped him, and just had a nice little snack later. But the party did some very quick ganking up on the Grell, and were able to slice off its tentacles and kick its unconscious floating head back down into the Underdark, and resolve the situation without people vanishing into the Underdark. The party followed Trex to go mine for a little bit, where one of the party, Darius, was he found this mineral deposit where there was like this fossilized skull in the wall, with this like sort of pink glow emanating for it, and sort of while the rest of the party was digging out gems for the peace offering, he sort of dug out this skull and took it out of the wall. And as he picked out the skull, it crumbled into his hands until what was left was a psi crystal. And as he picked up the crystal, it just sort of empowered his ego. We rolled for a form of indefinite madness, which to deal with the not always so fun nature, I just sort of offered, like, if we don't agree that this is something that would be fun to roleplay, we can roll again, or maybe come up with something else. Mental illness mechanics aren't always the best. In fact, they are rarely decent. But we had rolled that it basically just made him an egomaniac. Like, it amplified his ego, where he was just like, I'm just the best person around. Nobody on this party is smarter than me, faster than me, stronger than me. And he was just like, I can see this. I can see this going on. So now he has a psi crystal that makes him an egomaniac. Neat. And the rest of the party got some jimmies and decided to make their way back out to go back to Balenpost. At this point, they made their way back to Corberta and decided to have a conversation with Trex. And Trex had put the gems into his satchel and offered the satchel over to Corberta as the peace offering. And as Corberta picked up the satchel, both of them fainted. I sort of played a little loose with the ghost possession rules, where I was sort of anchoring it to the satchel. Whenever the satchel changed hands, the ghost would be able to make a possession check without needing to appear and then get somebody to make a wisdom save and then disappear again. But like, I kind of figured that the transferring of its tether, the satchel, that would make sense. And so both of them fainted, and they sort of roused the two of them up. And whenever Trex was roused, he was very confused because he has not been awake in a long time, since even before the kobolds made their way into the mine. Coberta, whenever she woke up, tried to play it cool. I was just like, it's been a long night. I'm supposed to talk to Akron about this, right? Do you mind leading the way to his office? Horswell has been possessed. Some of the party were very concerned for Trex, and some of the party were a little bit suspicious of Horswell, but we're just sort of like, let's go along with this for a little bit, because Horswell very well might uncover the fact that we broke into our lab. Akron thinks that we're incompetent and doesn't like us. Maybe it'll turn out all right. They talk to Akron for a little bit before Horswell hands over the satchel to him. I was using the stats for an Archmage at this point. I think he's a mage by rules as written, but like it's a little bit more charismatic. It's only a DC 12 save, right? He rolls a 2. And so a very powerful mage of the Cerberus Assembly, he's now possessed by a ghost. And it's the party's fault. But Coberta is woken up and realizes that I lost a bit of time. I'm here now. Akron has the satchel, pulls the satchel away with Mage Hand, but whenever Akron wakes up, he's acting a little weird, a little bit more generous. It's just like, oh, the kobolds need food? Yeah, go ahead. Pay no attention to the fact that I was saying, no, our food is very rationed. We're not sparing anything. He was a little bit less of a tight ass, and that was what got Kerberto to be like, oh shit, he's possessed. So she chunked a dispelling stone at him. Technically probably shouldn't have worked, but you know, I'm not making the party fight an Archmage right now. And hey, we rolled for initiative where half of the party was over here and half the party was trying to console Trex. After a couple of rounds of combat, the ghost possessed Nil, and Nil started stabbing Darius. And Coberta had run out of dispelling stones, so their only course was to try and knock Nil out. Meanwhile, Trex was explaining his situation and pointed out that everything sort of went weird whenever he came across this satchel, and a guy appeared and was just like, I need help. And Trex was just like, yeah, I'll help you. Which is when he got possessed. Then the sounds of combat were happening, and the party sort of tried to run across and meet back up. With everybody here, they were able to knock Nil down to 0 hit points, which kicked the ghost out. However, Nil is a half-orc and has relentless endurance. So, whenever Nil dropped down to 0 hit points and got the ghost out, his relentless endurance triggered, and so he got back up. With the ghost out, it uses Horrifying Visage, which, if you save, doesn't really do anything. If you fail, you become frightened. And if you fail by more than 5, you age. You're so frightened that you lose years of your life. And only one person failed tough, but didn't fail by quite enough to trigger the age effect. But poor Trex rolled a 2. -2. And so aged 20 years. And died. The party quickly dispatched of the spirit. And had tried to call for a cleric a little bit earlier in the combat, but nobody arrived quite in time. But after the dust settled and a satchel was caught on fire to remove the ghost anchor to the material plane, somebody arrived and was able to provide a revivify. I brought up that Trex died due to old age, which is very hard to deal with whenever you're talking about revivify or anything like that. So I sort of offered to the party that without doing something a little bit more significant like a resurrection ritual challenge, Trex might not be able to come back, or might only be able to come back for a couple of weeks before he passes on again, due to his now aged self. So the party decided to go ahead and do that. Toph, being the person who was talking to Trex, just sort of like went back to his monastery days and made a religion check to sort of remember this chant, this sort of meditative chant that helped them get in, put them in the mindset of being able to commune with the knowing mentor. But did it in Draconic. Now, Toph also has this this monastic scroll that let them go into the Dragon Monk subclass, the Way of the Ascended Dragon, and got this from a Tiamat cultist. So whenever they made their religion check, they rolled a natural 20. So whenever they made this chant in Draconic, I sort of figured who would have the most sympathy for a kobold. And it probably wouldn't be Ioun. It might be Tiamat. So I just sort of had like something in the back of their mind just to do a sort of like complacent growl or grumble or purr or something like that. And the deity who brought this kobold back to life was Tiamat. I'm not sure it means anything right now. It probably won't mean anything. But man, natural 20s are great. And that's pretty much where we left it. They completed the gem mine quest, so Caberta paid them their 50 gold, and eventually the kobolds will be signed on for Balenpost and sort of help Balenpost get more established and be able to create more magic items. The party sort of saved people. They saved Akron and Horswell from a ghost that they unwittingly unleashed upon them, so I'm sure they respond a little bit more favorably now, but they still do have those provisions from Recretius and are probably going to be making their way towards the Black Cabin next time. And I'm very excited for that. But that's pretty much where we left off. I hope you enjoyed my rambling about our D&D game. It's going to be a little bit before I do another one because, man, schedules are bad. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.